Scientists say there's a new golden age of astronomy. The first images taken by the world's biggest and most complex telescope show two galaxies colliding. The telescope has taken more than 8 years to build and is situated on top of a mountain in a remote region of Chile, the Atacama Desert. Here to explain it all is ABC Science online editor Darren Osborne. Darren, how does it make you feel to see, well, first of all, just shots of that complex in the Atacama Desert in northern Chile?
It's amazing. It's just amazing structure. 20 antennas already and another 46 or so to go.
So it's going to get even more powerful.
Exactly, yeah. At least three times more powerful. So the images that we saw there are just a taster of what we're going to see in the not too distant future.
And how exciting is it to see these images? We might bring them up now. Just talk us through them.
Well, this is a composite of two images. The bluish area is sort of more what we see with Hubble, your more traditional visual images that you see with the eye. The reds and the oranges you see come from ALMA, and that's looking at the radio frequencies. These are frequencies that we can't see with the human eye. In fact, for us being transmitted over the radio waves now, it's similar sort of frequencies. So they give us an insight into the gases that are contained inside those galaxies. And there are two galaxies actually colliding together. And we can see the stars in those two core areas, but in between we see all this glow, and that glow is the cold gas that's in between those two galaxies that's merging together, and it's out of those gases that the stars, new stars, will begin to form. So
is that happening now, or did it happen 3 million years ago, or is it going to happen 3 million years in the future? Or?
No, it happened in the past. In fact, all of that's probably happened now. Those galaxies have merged in our time right now, and some of those stars may not exist anymore. We're effectively looking back in time, and that's one of the crazy sort of mind-blowing things about astronomy, is that the further these objects are, the older they are, and there's, in some cases, as I said, some of them may not even exist anymore.
How does that work, that we can be sitting here now and they can look back through a telescope and see the beginning of the universe?
It's probably a little bit of a stretch to say that we can see right at the very beginning, because the Big Bang is where it all started 13.7 billion years ago. We can't actually see that point, but we can see probably when the first stars and galaxies formed soon afterwards, maybe about 500 million years afterwards. So that's stretching back 13.2 billion years ago. So we'd be looking for objects that far away. We need bigger telescopes because it helps us collect more light, or in the case of radio astronomy, more radio waves. And by collecting more, it's like the bigger the bucket, the more rain you catch when it starts to rain. So we can see objects that are further and further away.
Have there been telescopes that have used this system before this one, of like multiple telescopes to form the one telescope?
Yeah, it's been going on for a while. In fact, here in Australia, up at Narrabri, we have the Australia Telescope, which is a series of 6 that are set up there. They can also work in conjunction with the Parkes Radio Telescope and with the telescopes down at Tidbinbilla out near Canberra as well. And there have been some international projects, and some that have even involved spacecraft in space hooking up together. But it's not an easy feat, because you have to get the timing absolutely perfect. These signals are all arriving at each telescope at slightly different times. So the facility like ALMA has to have a supercomputer that matches all those signals up perfectly.
And is there any talk of creating another site where there's a telescope project that's even bigger than ALMA?
Yeah, and this is the one that a lot of people in Australia are very excited about. It's called the Square Kilometre Array. So whereas this one is looking at about 60 plus telescopes, the Square Kilometre Array, we're talking 1,000 plus telescopes, and it would simulate.
Are they in the one spot, or are they connected from several different spots?
It's spread over a fairly large area. In fact, there are two countries that are bidding for it, or two consortiums. One is South Africa, who are bidding for it. The other is Australia and New Zealand. Now, a decision will be made in February, I think February 29th next year, as to which site will be chosen. Those two regions are being picked because they are the quietest in the radio spectrum. There's no radio transmitters or houses in those areas. If it does come to Australia, we'd be looking at the majority of the telescopes scattered across the Western Australian outback, stretching in even to New South Wales, and some telescopes even in New Zealand as well.
So would they use existing telescopes, or would they be all using new telescopes?
There's a range of different ones that they'll be looking at using. Already at the moment, they're building a number of them over in Western Australia as what they call a Pathfinder project. So there's a number of small telescopes out there being trialled, but they will use a mix of, say, current and future technology, because it'll take about 10 years to build. So who knows what designs we'll have by the end of next decade.